Hello, good morning, you guys, and welcome to Real Talk with Tamara. As you guys come into the room, please do hit the like button. Also, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe to the channel. I hope that you guys are doing okay. I know that I am. I always express the importance of hitting the like button because the like button helps to keep the video in the algorithm. Okay, so make sure you guys please like, share, subscribe, comment, and all of those great things, you guys. I know it seems like I've been missing in action, but I've been catching up on work that I've missed in one of my classes, but I'm getting back into the groove of things. Okay, so I'll definitely be back tonight, actually. Um, if it's God's willing, okay? But I wanted to talk about um Arthur Horne did an interview with Vlad, okay? Art went on and did an interview with Vlad, and I want to pull that interview up, you guys. Um the interview that Art did with Vlad. Now, Arthur Horne is known as a CMG attorney, okay? He even, I don't know if it's still up there on his page, but he used to identify himself even on his Instagram page as a CMG attorney. Okay. He said CMG was like family to him. And remember when Straight Drop was first on the run, okay, Art Horne spoke out and said his client was going to turn himself in. And then he turned around and recanted that. I think because maybe he ended up getting the lowdown of what was going on. I'm sure Yo Gotti and them, since he's on their payroll, basically told him, you need to take your hands off of that situation because we're probably more than likely going to need you for us. Okay. Um, we do know that Yo Gotti's brother was going to be um, indicted, and at some point, I believe they're gonna knock Yo Gotti down too. Okay, because he is the one that they really want, because he's one of the funders of uh, the hit on Young Dolph. Okay, he's one of the funders of on Young Dolph. So I'm trying to look at what's going on. Okay. Um, okay. Um, glad. And I have not, we'll be seeing this together, okay? We'll be seeing this together. Hey, I like Art. Art is very charming, okay? I see him just about every day at the courthouse. Okay. He's always been very charming. Um, he's always been very suave, okay? And so he's very that makes him very crafty, okay, because we know he'll say something and then turn around and say he didn't say it in a minute, okay, so then it makes him up. I like Art, so I don't want to call him a liar. I'll just say that makes him a lawyer, okay. Anyways, let's see what Art has to say on about this situation, okay.
Are alleging. On January 10th, 2026, at 4:50 p.m., Gucci Mane, his cameraman MM, aka Matt Mazral, and someone listed only as BP were kidnapped and robbed at gunpoint at a music studio located in Dallas, Texas. There were 9 people currently charged, including Pooh Shiesty and your client, Big 30. Now, Big 30 just had a bond hearing. What exactly happened?
Y'all see how Art is sitting there twiddling his hands. Instead of, he's thinking about what he's thinking about what he's gonna say and how he's gonna say it, so he could be able to say he didn't say it or twist it. I mean, that's kind of what it looks like to me. Shout out to Art though.
We just put proof on the show that one, he wasn't a flight risk, and two, that he wasn't a danger to the community. He is no record, no prior record.
Now see, he flubbed when he said that, because maybe I should hear him out before I say Art. No, he's lying. Hold on.
And so after we were able to put that proof on.
Okay, so Art knows that he did not put any proof that he was not he does not have any record. Now, not unless he means he does not have a federal record, and that's questionable. I am going to take a look at that today. Okay, so when I come on tonight, I'll be able to tell y'all whether he has a federal record or not.
And to show where he'd be living and that he has employment and actually has another big deal on the table moving forward in his rap career. The judge granting him a bond of $100,000, which he'd have to come up with 10%, wear an ankle monitor, and some other stipulations or requirements.
Okay, so coming up with 10,000 is probably pretty easy for someone like Big 30.
Oh yeah, we were excited, we were ecstatic. The problem is, I think the government has until 5:00 tomorrow to appeal it to the federal judge in Dallas, which means if they do that, which we anticipate they will, then we'll have to go through this whole process again.
Here's the thing. If he says that he anticipates that they will, that means that they've already told him that they are going to do it. Okay. Art Horne already knew that when he had Big 30 to pay that $100,000 bond. I'm going to tell you the games that attorneys play. They will already know. Okay. Because they just do. They already know. They will already let the attorneys know because Dallas more than likely had already reached out to the federal prisons, okay, to Shelby County. The attorneys are always in the loop as it relates to that. So, I mean, in order, a lot of times the games the attorneys play is to make themselves look like they're this dynamite attorney. Oh, okay, this is a big case. I got my client a bond. Okay, you got $100,000 bond. That's rather low. That makes the attorney looks like he's the baddest thing out there, right? All the time lurking in the background, he already knows and has already gotten word that Dallas is going to put a hold on him also. Okay, but he does not necessarily let his client know until the last hour. Okay.
Right now, is Big 30 sitting in jail or he's out?
He's sitting in jail and he'll have to wait. If they appeal it, then he'll have to sit in jail until we have the hearing. I think Lontrell's hearing has already been set for next Monday, April 13th in Dallas.
Okay, so if the feds appeal, then you have to wait until next Monday to have another hearing to see if the judge actually accepts the appeal or not?
To see if the judge accepts the terms of the bond conditions, or if the judge could overturn it and say, hey, I'm not granting a bond, or he could say, hey, this is too harsh. We'll give him a lighter bond. He could do, various things. He could either one, take the bond away and make him sit in custody until we go to trial. Two, keep the bond conditions and the bond in place. Or three, he could lower the bond and let him out.
Well, I hope your client does get bond, because it's a lot better to sit at home than sit in jail for something that may potentially take a long time.
Yeah, particularly when this was not something that really involved him. He has no affiliation to 1017. He's not signed with them. He's been back and forth to Dallas to record music with Pooh Shiesty. As I said earlier, those.
So he's already creating a narrative when he basically said, and you all know that we can't just play this all the way through. I have to stop it from time to time when I'm doing a reaction on it. But he's already creating an atmosphere. Okay. He basically said, let it be known already that just for his narrative, as any attorney would, my client is not signed. He has no reason to have any beef with Gucci Mane, but we already know that he's not signed and does not have any reason to have any beef with Gucci Mane. But his loyalty is to Big Pooh Shiesty.
Two have been friends for a long time and have made great music together. They just have a natural bond and they just make good music together.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. So Big 30 and Pooh Shiesty grew up together. They went to school in South Memphis, and they started their rap careers right around the same time.
Yeah, that's correct.
And they have a bunch of songs together as well as a friendship.
That's correct.
So let's talk about allegedly what happened. And this is what the feds are laying out. Not that this is necessarily true or not. And this is an active case, and you're the lawyers, so there's certain questions I understand that you can't answer, but I'm just going to go ahead and lay it out based on what everyone is facing right now.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 4.
So at 1 p.m. on January 10th, 2026, the alleged victims flew to Dallas, Texas. So this is Gucci Mane, his head of security, a second security, as well as his cameraman, Matt, and someone named BP. And according to the feds, Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty were scheduled to meet because Pooh Shiesty was upset about the terms of his contract and he wanted to be released from the contract. So he asked Gucci Mane to come to Dallas so they could meet about business. Anything to state about this?
All I can tell you, and I think I'll keep saying this over and over again, the facts that are alleged in the criminal complaint, we view the facts very differently from the government. And as it relates to Big 30, we really view the facts very differently than the government.
Okay, what he's trying to do is let Vlad know that Pooh Shiesty is not his client. He really does not want to speak on Pooh Shiesty, and Big 30 is his client, and he's kind of trying to navigate away from any questions, I can tell, as he should, about Pooh Shiesty. Okay.
It's not our belief that Big 30 drove to Dallas to meet with Gucci Mane and Pooh Shiesty to commit a robbery and a kidnapping. He was there to record music. He had recorded music prior to that day. He had recorded music along with other artists. I think it'll come out in that particular studio. And that was a particular studio that Pooh Shiesty was working out of while he was on home confinement in Dallas, Texas.
Right, because Pooh Shiesty got out of jail, I think, about 100 days ago after doing 3 years on a 5-year bid.
Correct, but he was still under federal. So even though he was released to the halfway house and eventually put on home confinement, you're still considered to be in custody. And so he was still considered to be in custody and allowed, I think he was allowed to work, which is why he was able to go to the studio to record.
Okay, so based on the federal paperwork at 1:45, Gucci Mane, along with his head of security and his second security, they arrived at the location, which was a music studio, which was part of a bigger office building. And when they arrived there, the recording studio was closed. So while they're waiting, they went to the liquor store, they bought some liquor and some plastic cups, and they went back to the studio. Now, Pooh Shiesty's father called the studio owner multiple times, and eventually the studio owner answered around 2:53 p.m., and he found out that he was trying to book the studio, so they went ahead and opened the studio at 3:15.
Okay.
So at 3:39, an employee at the studio arrived to help with production, and Pooh Shiesty and his dad were outside, and the feds claimed they were having some sort of argument over the phone. Now, at 3:43 p.m., a few minutes later, Pooh Shiesty's dad, your client, Big 30, Baby Slime 375, KD, CMO Damn Fool, Mookie Roo 375, Glizzy 375, and DeMarcus Glover, they entered the building on the east side. They walked.
Now, it looks like DeMarcus Glover has on a 1017. Okay, he has on a 1017 chain. Let's go back and look at that.
So they went ahead and opened the studio
like
at 3:15.
And I think the government will be able to show that via video camera. They'll be able to show that from the owner of the studio. I think.
And DeMarcus Glover.
Is it? Yeah, he has on a 1017 chain. Is that the one he took from Gucci? Oh my goodness.
They entered the building on the east side. They walked through the lobby and they were going to the studio, and there's video footage of, photographs and so forth of them actually coming to the studio. So it's established that this group of people did go to the studio at that time.
No, I believe that's what the government is alleging, and I don't think I think there are certain facts that we will all agree, about, and I agree that they were there, and I think the government will be able to show that via video camera. They'll be able to show that from the owner of the studio. I think where we kind of the story differs will be in whether my client engaged to cross state lines with the purpose of kidnapping and robbing Gucci Mane on the 9th.
It's really weird, okay? Because if he wanted to speak with Gucci Mane about business, you would think that they would have met in Atlanta with their attorneys instead of Dallas. Not unless Gucci Mane's headquarters is in Dallas or something like that, but they meet at a studio. That's weird within itself.
Okay, so as everyone's in the studio, according to the federal paperwork, the victims overheard Pooh Shiesty talking on a cell phone to his probation officer. And he was asking if he can get some rec time to be out. And his PO said, no, you cannot be out. You need to you actually need to return immediately. Whereas Pooh Shiesty agreed. And he was wearing an ankle monitor the whole time because he was still on house arrest. So at that point, according to the paperwork, Gucci Mane told Pooh Shiesty they could reschedule a studio session. So this was more than a meeting. It seemed like they were going to the studio to actually do music.
Again, like I told you, my client had been there the day before recording music and had been there multiple times to record music with Pooh Shiesty. And again, there were other artists that had come there to record music with Pooh Shiesty, and that was the studio that he was working out of in Dallas. So that doesn't surprise me that that studio was booked to record music.
Well, right, because...
Okay, I see. He's saying that they were there the day before and they had already been there recording music. Okay.
If it was just a business meeting, it wouldn't be at a studio. They could meet anywhere.
That's right.
They don't want you to know about it.
Hey, did you know you might get a big cash?
Right. But in this case, they're meeting at a studio. Pooh Shiesty tried to get more time from his PO. His PO said, no, you need to go back home. So basically the whole studio session in and of itself got canceled at that point.
Correct. And I think at some point you saw in the video where everybody left.
So Gucci Mane told Pooh Shiesty they could reschedule the studio session. But according to the feds, Pooh Shiesty wanted to speak to Gucci privately in the attached recording room. Gucci agreed, and they entered the room with Gucci, Pooh Shiesty's dad, and Big 30, according to the complaint. And I guess there was a window in the recording room so the people that were still in the lobby could actually see inside, right?
That's according to the government. And again, I think this is where our case differs from the defense perspective. I think we have a different view of what happened in that room that day.
Okay, so at 3:43 p.m., according to surveillance footage, Pooh Shiesty's dad, Big 30, Baby Slime 375, KD, CMO Damn Fool, Mookie Roo 375, Glizzy 375, and DeMarcus Glover entered into the building. Now, they walked into the lobby, but then, according to the paperwork, Mookie Roo 375 could be seen on video exiting the office building and coming back with a bag slung over his shoulder.
That was according to the testimony from the federal agent from Dallas.
Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit hazy. So inside the control room, and this is Gucci's there by himself. His security guard is outside the door of the studio, and his other security guard is actually by the car that they drove in. So inside the room, both the rooms in the studio, there's no security, it's just Gucci, his people, and Pooh Shiesty and his people. So this is where it gets a little hazy. Inside the control room, the feds say that Pooh Shiesty pulled out a contract which terminated his agreement with Gucci and told Gucci Mane to sign it. When Gucci declined, Pooh Shiesty became agitated and they started to argue. Now, Matt, the cameraman at BP, could see, inside the recording room, and originally it seemed like they were discussing business, but then when the argument started to ensue, he texted Gucci Mane's head of security, who was still in the lobby. Any comment about that?
If there was a disagreement between two men that are in business together, there was a disagreement between two men that are in business together. Again, that doesn't make it a robbery or a kidnapping.
Okay. So according to the paperwork, as the argument started to ensue, they say that Pooh Shiesty told Big 30 to get his bag. Big 30 complied, and he left the recording room and came back with a bag. And they said that Pooh Shiesty pulled out what appears to be a black AK-style pistol from the bag and pointed at Gucci Mane. Now, who is saying this part?
I have no idea, because in the criminal complaint, there's no allegations of Big 30 ever having a gun or pointing a gun at anyone.
Well, he's constantly trying to see. Vlad is trying to get him, it seems to me, to confirm some things, and it is in the indictment, right? But I think what Art is doing is in a roundabout way. He's saying my client did not, which is Big 30, because Pooh Shiesty is not his client. My client didn't have to do this because he didn't have an interest. He did have an interest because he and Pooh Shiesty are thicker than thieves, right? They're tight. So they're thicker than thieves, and they are thieves. Hell. Shit. According to this indictment, they robbed the folks. So, he definitely had motive. Even though he didn't have an interest, his only interest would have been being loyal to Pooh Shiesty. And remember, they always talk about his blood on it, okay?
Okay, well, it said that Big 30 at this point did not point a gun, but they're claiming that he went and got a bag, gave it to Pooh Shiesty, then Pooh Shiesty pulled a gun out of the bag.
I can't comment on whether that happened or not. I wasn't there. But again, it goes into this narrative that we have a very different view of the facts versus the federal government.
Well, as the complaint goes on, they're saying that Pooh Shiesty demanded that Gucci Mane sign the release paperwork. And then at one point, Gucci Mane did sign, and Pooh Shiesty gave the paperwork to his dad. During that time, they're saying that Gucci was not allowed to leave because of the gun involved. Now, as Gucci is signing the release paperwork, they're saying that Big 30 pulled out a cell phone and started to record Gucci signing over the paperwork. Now, is this recording actually a real thing?
We haven't gotten that deep into the case where we've received discovery, but I feel pretty confident that there's not going to be a video of that.
Okay. Well, but even if there was a video of Gucci signing, unless he's saying, I'm being forced to sign this, Gucci could have just agreed to sign. They could have just worked out a deal right then and there. That's
correct. But again, like I told you earlier, that has nothing to do with Big 30. He's not signed to that label. He has no interest in Pooh Shiesty being signed or unsigned with 1017.
Wow, he just said it. I've been working around attorneys so long. I know what they're gonna say in their lingo. I knew what he was doing, but it in a roundabout way, he's still indirectly redirecting it back to Pooh Shiesty, okay, Pooh Shiesty and all of them, okay. But I digress.
I mean, it doesn't.
Well, after the release was signed, the feds are saying that Pooh.
And the only problem with that is Hernandez Govan, okay, who in some way has some type of connection to this group in one way or another, has already said that there's a video out there and he has seen it. If he's seen the video, that means either he was there or if he's seen this situation, either he was there or someone sent the email to him. So if it was sent to him on some device, that means that there are footprints of this video out there somewhere. Okay. He was very brazen about it, not unless he was lying and but he was very detailed and he spoke about it. We're hearing that he kind of spoke about it the day that it allegedly supposedly happened. So I believe, Art, either Big 30 has told him that there is no video, or Big 30 and them feel confident that whoever it is that has the video will not show this video. But if Govan got the video, that means either he was there holding it with his the camera, he recorded it with his phone, or someone sent it to him. So there are some type of digital footprints out there. And if Govan has it, I'm sure other people had got it. And we know people do anything for some money. Okay. I believe at some point that because of the digital footprints that are out there, is going to somehow walk its way digitally into the hands of if they don't already have it. Okay. It may be a footprints with the federal, of this video walking to the FBI's location at some point, if not already. Okay.
Shiesty took Gucci Mane's wedding ring, watch, earrings, and cash.
I can't comment on any of that. I wasn't in the room. I can comment on the fact that I believe that while Pooh Shiesty,
what Art is doing is he's definitely not allowing Vlad to get him caught up like these rappers will talk. Okay, but he knows that they're going to have to go to trial with this at some point if he does not take a plea, because I don't believe that the charges will be dropped against 30. He's trying to Art lies a lot in court, okay, as most attorneys do. They twist the truth. So he doesn't want anything used against him in a court of law. Okay.
he was locked up. He didn't receive any funds from Gucci Mane, and his music was still making money. And if there was a debt owed to Pooh Shiesty, I mean, I believe there was a debt owed to Pooh Shiesty. I don't represent him, so I don't know.
Okay, so after Gucci Mane signed the paperwork, Pooh Shiesty gave the paperwork to his dad, asked him if the paperwork was good. Shiesty's dad said actually needs a date, so they gave it back to Gucci. He put a date next to it, and then that was it for the alleged contract signing. But then this is where things get crazier. So as Gucci Mane, Pooh Shiesty, his dad, and Big 30 exited the recording room, the remaining subjects, KD, CMO Damn Fool, Baby Slime 375, DeMarcus Glover, Glizzy 375, and Mookie Roo 375 pulled out AK style and AR style guns and started to rob BP and Gucci's cameraman, Matt. BP was pushed to the couch. CMO Damn Fool searched his pockets and stole his wallet. BP's chain necklace, which had a 1017 on it, was stolen. And during the robbery, Glizzy 375 allegedly threatened to shoot BP for moving, but Pooh Shiesty told him not to do it. Now, this part of the situation, and the victims, BP and Matt, actually testified to this whole thing, and Matt had scratches and bruises on him and so forth. What's your comment on this?
Again, we have a very different perspective of what happened. And again, Big 30 is not alleged to have done anything when that occurred. And I think if you look at the video when he's coming there and leaving, you're not going to see him with a weapon.
Okay, well, the cameraman, Matt, got choked from behind, almost losing consciousness. And he was robbed of his Rolex watch, Louis Vuitton bag, which had other watches in it. And there was air tags that were actually in the bags that they took. Now, this is where Big 30 gets pulled into the situation again, because as the robbery was happening inside the studio, the feds are saying that Big 30 walked over to the studio door to the lobby, closed it, and blocked it with his body, preventing people from leaving. Now, Gucci's head of security tried to get in and try to push their way through, but they're saying the Big 30 barricaded the door. With handguns drawn, Gucci Mane's head of security and the second security partially got the door open, but then realized they were outnumbered by a bunch of other guns that were in the room. So this is where your client gets thrown into a bigger situation.
Again, the way the federal laws work, I mean, okay, this is a federal case because they're saying that he crossed state lines coming from Memphis, Tennessee, or coming from Tennessee, entered into the state of Texas to commit a robbery and to commit kidnapping. That was his intent. So the government has to prove that he had the intent, and that was his reason for coming there. And again, as I've explained, they recorded music in that studio multiple times, and they had recorded music, from my understanding, the day before.
Well, see, this is where it gets tricky, right? Because if you listen to Art Horne, he's already basically told you all what 30's alibi is, right? He's already established what their defense and what their argument is going to be. 30 was there because they was at the to record music. That's why he was in Dallas. He never crossed state lines with intentions of robbing Gucci. Okay. Their argument in trial is going to be, okay, my client was there he was there the day before. They've always recorded. He's letting you all know what their argument is going to be in trial. And you heard him say they got to prove that. And as far as he's concerned, he's confident. He's saying that he was there the day before at the studio, and they probably have video of that, possibly of him being at that same studio the day before. Because see, defense attorneys are paid to twist things. They was there the day before recording music. He was there the next day to record music. As far as he's concerned, he doesn't have any interest. As he just said, he doesn't know it. He didn't even know Gucci was coming. He didn't convey that message to him because all he know, because he has nothing to do with 1017, so he wouldn't know anything about the business of that. As if 30 and Shicey don't talk, okay? But he's just strictly there. That's his job, okay? He was just strictly there. He didn't even know Gucci was going to come. He just happened to show up while he was there doing music. Okay, he's basically letting you know what the argument is going to be.
And that was his reason for being there. So I think you still run into the issue of the intent.
Well, the intent is going to be hard to prove. I get that. But even if you take the intent out of the equation, they're still saying a crime occurred in that studio.
Well, but now the feds are involved. So there has that if it's a state case, right, then that's different. But this is a federal case. So part of what they have to prove is that he had the intent of coming across state lines to commit these particular acts. And what's telling to me is if Pooh Shiesty had this gun drawn on Gucci Mane, why isn't he charged with a 924G or 922G?
What is that?
A felon in possession of a handgun. Because he's a felon.
Okay, so you hear the feds taking on state cases sometimes, but can the state take on a Fed case?
The feds can opt out of taking this case and hand it over to the DA in Dallas, and they can decide whether they want to indict it or not. Absolutely.
Are you worried about that?
I think we're confident knowing the facts are very different than what are the facts that are in the criminal complaint and the facts that we know about in this case. We're very confident that we see this very differently.
Okay. And by the way, so is the case combined with all 9 co-defendants, or are they going to have separate trials?
Well, if they're going under the guise that this is a conspiracy, then they would try them all together.
Okay, got it. Well, the Fed paperwork goes on. They're saying that Gucci Mane was pushed onto the couch in the control room, causing the victims to believe they're going to be executed. Pooh Shiesty placed the barrel of a gun to the back of BP's head and ordered him and Gucci Mane to leave the control room and the studio through the west entrance of the office building. So then Gucci told his head of security and the second security to escort them to the vehicle. As the victims were leaving, Gucci's cameraman, Matt, turned to Pooh Shiesty to ask them if they're really taking his watches, which ultimately I guess they did. And after this all happened, they actually got surveillance footage where the target suspects left the studio and the office building around 4:48 p.m. There was AirTag locations where the bag was and so forth. And then exterior surveillance videos showed that a white Buick Enclave, a black Hellcat, and a black Dodge Ram were leaving the location. And the Hearst confirmed that the Buick was actually rented by Pooh Shiesty's dad, and that Big 30's father owned the Hellcat, and it had Tennessee license plates on.
I mean, we don't deny that he was there. I think what we deny is that he was there with the intent to commit a robbery and a kidnapping.
Well, Pooh Shiesty and his dad went back to an apartment because I guess Pooh Shiesty was living in Dallas at the time?
Yeah, he stays there while he's on home confinement.
Right. So him and his dad go back to their apartment. Big 30 and all the other guys go to a hotel at the Comfort Inn where they stayed overnight. But I guess the Hellcat was stolen the next morning.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
crazy.
That is crazy. That's wild.
Right. So then the next day, DeMarcus Glover, CMO Damn Fool, Mookie Root 375, and Glizzy 375. They jumped on a Greyhound and they went back to Memphis, Tennessee. Big 30, Baby Slime 375, and KD, they jumped in the Dodge Ram and they went back to Memphis, Tennessee also. Now, after the fact, Dallas Police Department found fingerprints from a couple of the members from Pooh's entourage on the cups in the room, which kind of basically helps establish that they were all in the room hanging out together. Not that anything happened, but their fingerprints were on the cups they were drinking. Now, Gucci Mane and his cameraman Matt described Pooh Shiesty as wearing a black Nike brand Shiesty mask, a black hooded shirt, and black pants during the offense. So does this imply that Gucci Mane actually is cooperating with the feds?
It sounds like it from your dissertation, but also, I mean, this weekend we saw a video where he came out and said that he wasn't cooperating with the police. That's not what he does. And I'm paraphrasing, but basically, or essentially, he's not cooperating in this investigation, which I find somewhat odd based on some of the facts that are in the criminal complaint, basically saying that they got the information from Gucci Mane.
Well, right, because according to the complaint, Gucci Mane, Matt, and BP identified Big 30 actually being present during the incident. So once again, it seemed like Gucci was cooperating with the feds by pointing the finger at your client.
It would sound that way. So I'm not sure whether to believe what he said over the weekend or what's in this criminal complaint. And that's sort of leaves me scratching my head as to this whole case. Because it sounds like it may have emanated from some type of state complaint that was eventually taken over by the feds. But we're not deep enough into the case to know how it came about.
Usually, Art, that's how they originate. You know that. It could start with a state complaint, and hey, they realize that, hey, this fits the criteria of a Fed case. Especially, you notice he put a lot of emphasis on traveling across state lines because to commit a felony, because that automatically qualifies it for a federal situation. You have to think about, you have to think about too, Pooh Shiesty just got out of the feds. He's on probation as it relates to the feds. That right there would automatically have them to stick their noses into it. Also, Big 30 has more than likely been up under investigation quite a bit because of his gang. Okay. So he talks about, it's one thing to say, and that's Art is a defense attorney. He's doing his job. Hey, it's one thing to say, well, my client has never been to jail. Well, I mean, or never does not have a record. Is he talking about a state record or a federal record? Because we know that he's been to jail. Okay, that's out there. Okay, that's out there. But was Big 30 up under? Big 30's hands is not clean, and there have been quite a few of his gang members. And there's a division with the federal government, especially the FBI, that all day, every day investigate and put gangs, especially when there's violence, quite a bit of violence, up under investigation. And it could go on, and they could watch them. I think I told you all before, upward of 7 years or more. Okay. Which is why their conviction rate is so high, because they patiently wait, right? We know that there have been members of Chopper Gang that has been there's been a lot of violence in the past, okay? But anyways, I digress.
Well, this is where
although there has not been, there were no indictments on Big 30. I'm pretty sure that if this gang was up under investigation, it is more than likely already known that Big 30 sits at the top and is one of the top money maker of this gang, which means he's more than likely the one that had funded this gang. Unfortunately, a lot of those young men have lost their lives in the past, though.
It's crazier. So on the surveillance footage.
And my point is that would already make him an interest of the feds, okay?
After the alleged robbery, CMO Damn Fool was seen exiting the building carrying a Louis Vuitton bag.
Lord have mercy.
Which the cameraman Matt had reported stolen. And then on January 15th, CMO Damn Fool, a very fitting name, by the way, started posting videos of him wearing a Rolex GMT Master 2, which appears to be the same watch that Matt had actually declared was stolen. Then there was another person who was there who, I believe it was DeMarcus, who he said had choked or scratched him. They found his Instagram page, and he had videos of wearing a 1017 necklace and also showing off a bunch of cash and a Rolex similar to one of the ones stolen by Matt. Oh, so basically what the feds are saying is that Pooh Shiesty crew started self-snitching. they started posting up stolen items from this alleged robbery.
I can't comment on what they posted on their Instagram page. I can't comment about whether they own Rolexes or whether they had a 1017 chain through Pooh Shiesty or Gucci Mane or somebody else affiliated with the label. And again, it still goes back to how do we corroborate the facts that are in that complaint? You corroborate those facts with evidence. And from what has been testified to at this point, there's been no physical evidence that corroborates the things that you're saying happened and occurred on that day.
Well, when it comes to your client, this is the Fed's overall accusations.
That it was a conspiracy, correct?
Right. Well, according to the Feds, when it comes to Big 30, they said that eyewitness accounts state that Big 30 went to the recording studio during Pooh Shiesty's conversation with Gucci Mane and returned with a bag containing firearms. Eyewitnesses' accounts state that Big 30 filmed the release of the contract. Surveillance footage and eyewitness accounts placed Big 30 at the location, and following the offense, he was wearing similar clothing to what suspects in the kidnapping and robbery appeared to be wearing. And then cell phone records indicate that Big 30 traveled to Dallas, Texas in a vehicle registered to his father prior to the offense, and that places him in the area of the offense during the actual situation. And cell phone records indicate that Big 30 traveled back to Memphis, Tennessee with other target suspects on January 13th, 2026. So some of these are indisputable.
And that's what I said to you earlier. I mean, some of the facts in the case, we're not going to disagree about. But I think the meat of what happened is sort of where we have a disagreement with the government. And you think about the guys that, I mean, and this is just common sense, Vlad, like the guys that rode back on the Greyhound. I mean, the car that was rented for them, probably once it got stolen, they had to take a bus back to Memphis instead of driving back to Memphis.
Now he's being crafty on that. What are the chances of a car that these boys drove to Memphis and getting stolen? No, they knew they was hot, and they probably was afraid of being stopped, so they got their asses on the bus. Okay.
So
not unless the damn car was already stolen.
And two, if there was some conspiracy to commit some big robbery, why would they go back to the same hotel they were staying at, spend the night, and just hang out and then leave the next day?
I'm going to tell you why they did it. Because unfortunately, a lot of these damn fools feel like when you do dirt, okay, they got this thing going. They try to make you feel bad about putting the police on their ass, okay, because they want to be able to do as much dirt as they can to you without going back to jail, okay? I'll just shame you into saying you a snitch, okay? It's obvious Gucci don't give a damn about that, praise God, okay? That's why they went back. You know, they was glad that they had the necklace around. They walked out with the backpack on their back. That's on camera. How they gonna fight against that? It was obvious that something nefarious went on up in there. How they gonna walk out with the folks' chain and the backpack of the cameraman and wearing it? Them damn fools from Memphis for real, okay? And I love my city, but they're a bunch of damn fools and something wrong. Okay, it's something wrong there. Okay, they walk out wearing the stuff. They was just happy that they had hit a lick, like most damn fools, and they felt like Gucci said, "Well, if Gucci's supposed to be a street dude, he ain't gonna tell on us." That's why they did it.
I mean, that's sort of common sense would say if they had committed this robbery, like let's get on the road and get back to Memphis, or it just. Some of it doesn't jibe well with.
You could tell with the way that Art is saying this that he knows that they did it. Of course, most defense attorneys know, and you could tell just with how he looked, he's saying that I can't believe they were so damn stupid. Okay, just with the way he's looking and the way he said it don't make sense. You could tell it basically. In other words, he said I can't believe they were so damn stupid.
what's being said. It just the behavior.
Well, as Big 30's lawyer, what is your version of the events?
I can't go into I can't go into what my client and I have spoken about, obviously, for attorney-client purposes. All I can say is that we have a very different view and version of what happened today.
Are there plea deals on the table right now for Big 30 to cooperate?
Right now, there's a criminal complaint. They haven't been indicted. I would expect there to be an indictment very soon. And I think the criminal complaint gives you an indication of what the indictment will probably look like, if there is one.
Well, it was reported that Pooh Shicey's dad didn't get bond, but that was actually false because he did get bond.
Correct.
How big was the bond?
I think it was $250,000, 10%.
Okay, so he put up $25,000.
Correct.
And now he's out. Are any other co-defendants on bond?
So from my understanding today, everyone was granted a bond except the last person in the criminal complaint. And I can't remember his last name.
That's interesting because it seems like to me they were the ones that were the sendouts. They left with the shit. They were the sendouts that did the work. So they get to talking about who's talking. We see who's talking. When Quet said he had gotten that video, I felt like it was one of them that had gotten that video. Okay. They're the ones that don't have any money. So of course they would be the ones that would talk. Now, he says they've been granted bond, but have they paid it? Do they even have the money to pay a bond?
And Mr. Rogers that's in Atlanta, being held in Atlanta, has also been denied bond. So it's my understanding that everybody was given a bond except for Mr. Rogers, and there was another individual, the last name in that criminal complaint.
Okay. So, but is Pooh Shicey's dad the only one that's actually out right now on bond?
Nobody's out.
Oh, even Pooh Shicey's dad's not out.
Yeah, so those bonds so those bonds are going to be appealed. It's my understanding they'll be appealed to the district judge in Dallas, and we'll have to go back and have the entire hearing over again, the entire detention hearing over again.
Got it. So what's applying to Big 30 is applying to every other co-defendant.
Everyone that's been granted a bond.
Yeah,
correct.
Exactly. The bond
Because
part.
the government is basically saying we don't agree with the magistrate's ruling, and we want the sitting judge to hear to rehear the detention hearing on all these individuals that were granted bonds.
And you all do know that a magistrate is not a judge. They are still lawyers that have not been appointed as judges, but they sit in after hours as in the capacity of a judge. Okay. Most judges have 9 to 5s or 8 to 4:30s. They kind of sit in after hours in the capacity of a judge. That's why they're called a magistrate. I think they are sworn in as a magistrate, though. They have not been elected as a judge because judges are elected. So they are sworn in, but they are not elected, which means he's saying that they want to an elected official, a sworn an elected judge to hear it. But I think art is kind of misleading because stuff like this happens all the time, and it has nothing to do with it being a magistrate. It's just that, if they are in another city, they'll make bond. And if it's Dallas that wants them, of course, they can get paperwork to stall that. It happens all the time, and get them extradited back to the state where the crime was committed.
Well, if this does go to trial, will every co-defendant have a separate lawyer, or will there be one central lawyer and a legal team representing everyone at once?
No, everyone will have their own counsel. And sometimes in cases like this, if everybody is working together, you can have a joint defense agreement where all the individuals agree to work together. Typically in federal cases, if somebody flips and becomes a cooperating witness for the government, then they wouldn't go to trial, obviously. They would be a witness.
So they would be severed from the case, in a way, severed from the defense.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
And I'm not saying that there's a joint defense agreement right now. I'm saying that's potentially a possibility, but everybody will have their own counsel and everybody will have to decide based on the evidence what's in their best interest going forward. The interesting part from our perspective will be if you have cooperating victims. Because in the past, in the past, I handled cases involving where a young Dolph was a victim, alleged victim. I represented Black Youngster in Charlotte, and there were two other individuals charged along with Black Youngster. We were successful in getting that case dismissed, and we worked really hard to get them dismissed prior to trial. But the other issue was young Dolph was not a cooperating victim or alleged victim.
Which is why I think Gucci and young Dolph were friends. And young Dolph was not a cooperating victim. That is why the case was thrown out. Okay, that's the only reason that it was thrown out. And I think that's really messed up, that he did not cooperate with them after Black Youngster and them shot up his van 100 times. He gave Youngster and them some grace. And then they still had this, they still had him killed. Okay. They still had him killed. Because y'all do know that young Dolph was killed. All of them, those people, Gotti, Black Youngster, all of them were involved in that hit, right? Paying for that hit. And Gucci had a connection to young Dolph. Why would he not? Okay. And I hate this happened to young Dolph, and I've said this so many times. I am a law-abiding person, but if he was not going to get their asses put in jail, he should have had somebody to knock them down, because they had a consistent pattern of trying to kill him. Now, I think that Gucci has weighed, he's kind of weighed those possibilities out too. He's got too much to lose. Okay. They say Gucci gets busy in the street too. So why would he send a hit? I'm sure that was on top of his brain to do something like that. He's got his wife in his ear. She's the voice of reason. We can't lose for these street thugs. So what we're going to have to do is go about doing it another way. I'm glad he put the police on them. I digress.
Right.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can scan around to see if I can get somebody to tell me if Gucci I'm gonna try to see what I can find out.
From what I understand, this whole case will probably hinge on Gucci Mane not just cooperating, but actually taking the stand.
That's correct.
Right. Because if Gucci says no comment, I'm not going to show up. Could he be forced to actually show up in Memphis because he lives in Georgia?
The alleged incident happened in Dallas.
Dallas, my bad.
So he would have to
Texas,
show up in Dallas if he's subpoenaed, but he could plead the fifth, because if the story that he initially told, if he did tell the story, is not true, then he would have, filed a false complaint.
Well, Art just let you know that Gucci filed a complaint. He's putting it out there. He just put it out there, and I think that was a crafty thing to do. He just put it out there, and of course, Gucci is not going to take that back because he could be charged with falsifying a government document federally on a federal level. Okay, so but now I understand what Art is saying. So they filed a complaint. I'm sure it wasn't just Gucci. They're putting all the emphasis on Gucci. That was another man assaulted too. So Gucci is cooperating. Art is trying to shame him into not doing it. I don't think it's gonna work. But Gucci has filed one of the ones that filed a complaint, and yeah, he's not gonna take it back. After he filed a complaint, the feds picked it up. Him and the others.
But again, looking at what he said this weekend, unless he's just putting that out there for the public so that people don't think that he's a cooperating witness with the government, he has nothing to do with this case.
Yeah, our Horne is definitely a CMG attorney. He's very crafty. Okay, he's been working with them too long. Art, okay.
I mean, look, I have a interview from I think about 20 years ago with Gucci Mane, where he said on camera that he would rather die than snitch.
I never snitch on a nigga. Where we from, we won't do that. For real. This East Carolina zone said, well, niggas I fuck with my crew, we won't do that. We won't snitch on niggas. We stand down for ourselves. Like, if I gotta go, I'm gonna go. I done went before. I don't want to snitch on a nigga to save my nobody's life, not even my own. I die.
He said that on camera.
Well, he may have meant that differently. Okay, I mean that may have a different context. You know, maybe he wouldn't snitch on one of his friends or something like that. You know, but it's different when you are the victim and you are a businessman. He has evolved from that. That's about 100-year-old video. He has evolved. He's a businessman. Gotti and them snitch. They just get, you know, they've been snitching on Paper Route and all of them to take out their competition when they can't get these little dudes to crash themselves out and take them out. They get their people to call in and that's a fact. Okay, they play the game differently. They just do it behind the scenes. So I think Gucci's doing he doing a damn good job. Okay, he's setting a tone to stop all of this mayhem that's happening in the Black community, especially in the rap community. Okay, I respect the man that openly does it than to go behind the scene and get their girlfriends or their managers and shit like that, their interns and shit to do it. Okay.
He says he would never snitch, not even against his own enemies. He'd rather die than snitch. So now when this paperwork has gotten released and there seems to be some indications of Gucci Mane cooperating, like there's videos of people in prison throwing out their Gucci Mane book, you know, because now they consider him a snitch and everything else like that. And I mean, if you think about it, like Gucci is one of the main anti-snitch type rappers ever.
Well, and this is nothing to do with the case per se, but just one of the things that I thought about before coming over here today to sit down with you was, why would you want to put your best artist that's made you millions of dollars back in federal custody for a decade or more?
Here's the thing, Art. You are a CMG attorney, and I'm sure that contract that Gotti had, because Art is also an entertainment attorney. He's one of the only ones, one of the few in Memphis. Okay, so that means he knows those contracts and things of that nature. He writes up those contracts that Gotti put them damn fools in. Okay, so I'm sure he's one of the lawyers that had already written up that sharky ass contract for Pooh Shiesty to come over there and sign with CMG. Gucci wasn't dumb enough to let him out the contract so he could go over there and sign. So now what they want to do is shame him, okay? And then maybe if Pooh is out, Gotti can and if Gotti don't get caught up in this, okay? Because then he can still try to lure him over there maybe when all of this if all of this dies down. But if Pooh get caught up in this, Gotti's name is already coming up, and he's already trying to capitalize off of this. They say he got a CM11 album coming out, okay, on the heels of all of this. Gotti tricked them into crashing out, because if you think about it, they claim allegedly that Gotti had a $10 million to $20 million contract for Pooh. I don't believe it. They ain't even giving out those types of contracts and money anymore. And I don't believe Gotti got it. Okay. So I don't believe he got it like that. So I believe that Pooh was tricked. Okay. And you trick yourself out of your position. And because he was still, until he was signed with CMG, he was still CMG's competition. Okay. So he, Gotti, made an ass out of all of them. And now the video is in the hands of Orange Mound Quit, who is on a vengeance. Okay.
Right? Like, it doesn't make sense. Because he drops FDO. It's the #1 song in the world, right?
And that kills Gotti, because even though he put Gotti's name in the song, FDO is #1 song in the world. It is still not up under CMG. It is up under 1017. Gotti's arch nemesis, person he still hates. Okay, they try to say it's about, people want to put it all about Keisha Kayor. I don't think that has anything to do with nothing. Okay, people tend to feel, I don't think that has nothing to do with nothing. I believe Keisha Kayor was before Gucci, or maybe it's before he took her seriously, but I think it has everything to do with knowing that a good dude, he put a hit on a good dude, young Dolph, and had him taken out for no reason at all, simply because he was helping him. Because I believe Gucci helped him in the beginning. He was helping young Dolph. Okay. And you take this man, this son, this father, this artist out because of your motherfucking jealousy. People tend to look over that. I think it has less to do with Keisha Kayor and everything to do with how far he went with putting a hit on young Dolph.
And he signed to your label. So why would you want to put him back into custody when potentially Pooh Shiesty could make you millions and millions of dollars more?
Well,
now what Art is doing is pandering to Gucci on here. He knows Gucci is going to see this. He's trying to be the voice of reason. Drop this shit. He already put it out there. He was one of the ones that filed a complaint. Drop it. He's going to make you millions. He's trying to pander to him. He's trying to be the voice of reason. Really?
but there is a theory about this, right? And I tweeted about this and posted on Instagram, and it went viral like a lot of my stuff does. And here's a possible dilemma. I'm not saying this is the truth, but here's a possible dilemma. From the outside looking in, it appears that Gucci signed this release under duress. Now, if it's proven that it was signed under duress, then the contract gets thrown out and Pooh Shiesty is still signed to Gucci for however many albums. But if Gucci says nothing happened, I'm not going to say that it was signed under duress, then the release is valid. And Pooh Shiesty is no longer signed to a Gucci Mane. So there's that angle to look at. I don't know how serious it is. Me personally, if I was Gucci, I would just let it go. You know, at the end of the day, he's already made money off Pooh Shiesty. And if the alternative is sending Pooh Shiesty to prison, I would just say, I'm not going to cooperate. But then again, people get greedy and sometimes they're just going after every dollar. So I don't know what's going to happen, but this is a theory in this case.
Well, I think even from a legal perspective, nobody has produced this document. Because that would be some corroborating evidence.
Well, Art Horne, we know that you are a CMG attorney. So you would say that. Okay. And if that document was to come up, that would be proof. They probably can't produce it now. Okay. That would be proof of what they did. Okay.
Right.
So let's say the feds say, all right, we don't feel like we have enough to go forward. And then a few years later, they produce this document. Now you've corroborated the criminal complaint.
Absolutely.
That's a piece of evidence.
Well, yeah, I mean, until the document is produced, Pooh Shiesty is still signed to Gucci Mane right now, as we speak, until it's officially produced and Atlantic Records gets notified or whatever.
He probably still signed to him based on this theory that it was signed under duress.
Hey guys, forget all you know about AI video. It's so over. And we have the new AI video model that is dominant.
Well, Pooh Shiesty has two lawyers, from what I understand. Attorney Bradford Cohen and Gary Helms. Are you familiar with these two?
I've heard of Gary Helms. I've never worked with them.
Well, Bradford Cohen said that there is a significant gap between the allegations made by the government and the actual evidence. And Gary Helms said the defense will present a version of events that is significantly different from the federal indictment. And the defense team has denounced the claims of the feds, and they're focusing on reviewing the evidence in anticipation of the bond hearings. So have you talked to Pooh Shiesty's lawyers, and are you guys working together in any capacity? Because at the end of the day, Big 30 is not the target of the feds. It's really Pooh Shiesty.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I would anticipate I would speak to them. And again, I think what they're saying is the same thing that I'm saying, right? That there's the government's version, and then there's our version. And our version is that my client didn't commit any didn't commit any crimes, didn't break any laws, and then travel to Dallas, Texas, across state lines from Tennessee with the intent to commit a robbery and a kidnapping.
Well, Arthur Horne, I appreciate you coming in and talking about the case. It's still very much an open case. Your client is still sitting in jail along with 8 other co-defendants. It really is a tragedy, man, on a lot of different levels, because like you had said earlier, Pooh Shiesty, he got out, I think it was like 112 days ago, dropped first day out. It became a huge song. Everybody was back on the Pooh Shiesty wave. And, I hope that what really happened isn't the truth, because at the end of the day, I feel like Pooh Shiesty had a very long career ahead of him. And yeah, a lot of people sign bad deals. That's just how it works, especially as new artists. But eventually the deal ends and they go on to have even bigger deals, because then there's a bidding war over your next deal. And they go on to have more hit songs and big concerts and everything else like that. So at the end of the day, I hope this is all disproven and he can go back to having his career, as well as your client having a career as well, and so forth.
Okay, you guys. It looks like Gucci is going to cooperate. Okay. It looks like he's one of the ones that filed a complaint, which is good, because he only had 2 options: send a hit back, send a hit and knock him down, the old street way, the old way he used to think, and lose everything that he has worked for, or to do it the right way. And I feel like that is doing it the right way. Art Horne was being extremely crafty. He knows that he's the entertainment attorney for CMG. He writes up those contracts. So he's basically letting it be known, we're not, over at CMG, we're not going to accept that. We're not going to do it that way, because then that would prove that this happened, as I told you all. Basically, I think he is saying that there is no way in the world that, without saying it, Gotti is going to sign him at this point. But Gotti played a game with Pooh Shiesty. Pooh Shiesty was Gotti's and Gotti's artist competition. Gucci Mane was getting all of the residuals, all of the gold, as it relates to what Pooh Shiesty was producing and Gotti was not. Y'all know that kills Gotti. Okay. I believe that he put out an energy in the atmosphere, lying as if he had about a $10 million situation on the table for him, which I don't believe. They're not even giving artists that type of money anymore, from my understanding. And it caused Pooh Shiesty, as it do with so many of these young dudes in Memphis that come from poverty, because they don't know how to think. They don't know any better to crash out. Okay, when you got a crafty mofo like Gotti, and Gotti got it. Y'all see, Art Horne is just as crafty. Okay, now y'all see how they get him caught up in those deals, and it's kind of something that he would bring up young Dolph situation with Black Youngster, and then he goes, "Well, young Dolph did not cooperate," and they couldn't even appreciate that. They still had a vengeance. They still had this determination to kill the man, and ultimately, a few years later, even though he didn't cooperate when they shot up his van, he went and made a hit song, 100 Shots. And got paid off of it. That made them even madder, and it gave them a determination to kill him. I think that Gucci is doing the exact same thing. Gucci and Dolph were very good friends. That angered Gotti, because Gucci was teaching Dolph the game without putting him in chains, as Gotti wanted to do. Okay, Gotti is the author of all confusion. Okay, but I believe that Gucci is going to cooperate. Art Horne was kind of letting it be known that, he was kind of indirectly redirecting it back to Pooh Shiesty and all of them. Okay, so this is interesting, y'all. Anyways, I got to get ready for work, you all. It's 7:05. I've been on here longer than I had planned to. I've already taken my shower and stuff. So anyways, you guys, I want you guys to please like, share, and subscribe. If you would like to support the channel, you could definitely support the channel via Cash App.